He gives it the gas. We just go through the yard, across a 2-lane asphalt road, and just into the bayou. We all love wheeled vehicles, but this is a story involving speed and excitement, but no wheels whatsoever. I had gone to Louisiana with my wife at the time, and we were just staying in New Orleans, having a good time, seeing the sights, doing the thing. And on the way in, I had seen a billboard for an airboat tour, and that looked pretty exciting. I'd never been on an airboat before, so I thought, oh, that'd be fun. So I find one of those little kiosks with all the little flyers and things. And I get all the ones for airboats. We get back to the hotel room, and I'm looking through them all, and they're all just saying, safe, fun for the whole family, relaxing day on the bayou. And it all looked nice, but that just wasn't really the type of experience I was particularly looking for. So this is early 2000s. The internet's early. I don't have like a computer with me. It's before smartphones. I got a little flip phone. I proceeded to just get out a map and look at some roads and find some little towns out in the bayou, out in the middle of nowhere. So I proceeded to find this little town on the map, and I call up the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce knows all the local businesses. They know everybody in town. And I called the Chamber of Commerce up, and I asked the lady, I said, ma'am, I reckon you all know each other in your town. She kind of laughed, said, oh yeah, we all know each other. I said, is there anybody in your town that has an airboat that takes people out on airboat rides? And she said, no, I don't really know anybody. So I proceeded to call another town and another town. On the third town, three's a charm, sure enough, she said, oh yes, there's Beauregard Papadoe. He's got the fastest airboat on the bayou. I said, that sounds great. Can you give me his number? She said, oh yes, I go to church with him. Here is the number. So I get the number, and I call this guy, just cold call him out of nowhere. And I said, hello. I said, the lady at the Chamber of Commerce said you got an airboat, you case to give people rides. Now, he did more like a hunting guy, taking people out, gator hunting, that kind of thing. He said, he, of course, good Creole accent. He's like, what you hunting? I said, I'm just hunting to go fast. He said, well, I got the fastest boat. I said, well, when are you available? He said, why don't you come out tomorrow morning? I said, yes, sir. He gave me the address, worked it out. Again, this is before smartphones, but figured it out on the map. I get there. So get up next morning. I drive out to this guy's house. He just lives out some little channel on the bayou. His house is on the opposite side of the road from the little channel going into the bayou. And I knock on his door, and he comes out, and he's a nice older fellow. And I said, hello, I'm Christopher. I called you about the airboat ride. Oh, yeah. Come on. Let's go around back. So he proceeds to take me around the back of the house, and he's got an airboat sitting there just in the grass. And what I noticed first about this airboat was that the motor on it was an old Continental 7-cylinder radial, which happened to be the same radial airplane engine that was on my granddad's Stearman biplane. So I made a comment that I'd worked on that engine before, and of course he's an old fellow. I'm 25 probably, and he's like, oh, you wouldn't know anything about that motor. That's before your time. And I told him about the biplane, and we proceeded to talk about the engine and its merits, and he got really excited because nobody really had ever, he got to talk about that motor very much. So we hit it off very well. And I said, well, how much you charge me for a airboat ride? And he said, well, yeah, I'm probably going to let my son take you out. My hands ain't what they used to be. And I said, well, okay. And the son is kind of milling around, and the son is, again, I can't remember the guy's name, Bosif or something like that. So we get to talking, and he said, how about $50? And I said, I'll give you $100 if you can scare me. He kind of sits back a second. He looks over at the son, and he goes, Bosifus, go get the other boat. Bosifus goes around back of the barn. I'm thinking we're going to take this airboat with the old biplane engine on it. Oh no. I think I felt this engine before I heard it. Just the ground shakes, and I just hear this open header, big block motor. Airboat just comes around the corner, just in the grass, across the gravel, into the yard. It's got just this ginormous big, it's black, it just looks rusty and unsafe, and just open header stacks on this boat. Great sounding motor, thing's idling, the guy hops off. I was like, what kind of motor is that? He said, it's a 500 cubic inch Cadillac out of a hearse. I said, now you're talking. Wife at the time is looking pretty skeptical at this point, but I'm like, it's gonna be okay, We proceed to get in the boat. And I said, well, where do we launch from? He said, we launch from right here. So we get in the boat, we buckle up, he gives it the gas. We just go through the yard, across a 2-lane asphalt road, and just into the bayou. The guy looks over, he says, you ready? I was like, punch it, Chewy. He hits the gas, and immediately, it was like in the movies. The whole world just became a green blur. Just whoosh, we just take off. And there's a bit of a lake. And we take her across the lake. And the wife at the time, she was pretty adventurous. She was good with going fast. I taught her to drag race. You know, she was pretty brave. But we're just jetting across this lake at whatever speed this thing was capable of, which was a lot. And there's a big wall of like the marsh grass coming, which to anybody growing up around a lake, that usually means the land. And as we're getting closer to this, like I can see her start to kind of get this panic. There's nowhere to go, but I can see her starting to panic. Like, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. And we just hit the grass. It wasn't like it wasn't even there. It was just marsh grass. We hit it, and we're just skimming across the grass. And we proceed to have the most fantastic time. We are jumping logs. We're zimming in and out of just banking it and skidding around. We're, almost hit an alligator one time, flying up these little channels. Now we're in the woods. There's like these little channels they've cut through the forest. We're flying through the forest. They're all their little hunting trails. Just having a great time. Super fast. At one point, we get to a levee, like big 2-3-story grass levee, and he just noses the nose up against it, gives it the gas, and this thing proceeds to just go right up the levee. We get at the top, levels out. You can see down the levee. The interstate is like, their highway is like down below us. And we're just on land, and he just hits the gas, turns around the grass. And I was like, I didn't know these things could go on land. He said, oh, if the bottom had hold up, we could take it to town. Gives it the gas again. We just launch off the levee, go skating down like sliding in wet grass on church shoes, hit the water, take off again. We're flying along. He does the obligatory 360. We jump a few more logs. At one point, I'm riding up top with him. We're flying along, and there's this, over the lily pads, there's this clear bit, and a big old alligator pops up. And we just hear this bonk. And he just looks at me, and I looked at him, and he just gave him more gas, and we keep going. So the trip is, we've been out about an hour. We've had a fantastic time. He's well earned his $100. As we're getting a little closer, getting back to where the guy lived, I guess he figured we hadn't had the full experience. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he just cuts the motor to the airboat. And while it is still slowing down, he dives off the airboat into the water. Like, just jumps off. And by the time I'm trying to figure out what happens, he pops up out of the water with a small, like a 4-foot alligator, like in a headlock. Just got the thing in a headlock. It's thrashing. He kind of reaches in his pocket. And he pulls out some tape and like wraps the thing's mouth up with the tape. Throws the alligator into the boat with us, and then climbs back into the boat. And he motors over this little hunting, fishing shack thing they have, and we proceed to play with the alligator. We're taking pictures with it. We're posing with the guy. Anyway, the alligator's not having it. But again, a 4-foot alligator, 3-foot alligator, it's like, I don't remember how this thing was, maybe 3 feet. It's like this much alligator, this much tail. It was like an iguana. It wasn't anything dangerous, but it's still exciting nonetheless. So we take pictures with the alligator. He untapes the alligator's mouth, reaches under the seat, and he pulls out marshmallows. And I said, alligators like marshmallows? He's like, oh yeah, the marsh lily, that's like, they eat that as little babies. It's like mother's milk to them. And he feeds the thing a couple of marshmallows and lets it go. And we get back in the boat and we go back to the house. And he's like, did I earn that $100? And I gave him $200 because he dang sure earned his $200. And it was just a funny story about an exciting day without 4 wheels underneath it, but tells you the kind of excitement you can have if you just go a little ways off the map.